Hi, I'm Victor Lambs, and you're listening to The Secrets of Stargate, where we talk about hidden meanings and deeper layers found in the Stargate movies, TV series, and more. And joining me today are Lisa Jones. Hi, Lisa.
Hey, Victor.
And Jeff Haecker. Hi, Jeff.
Hey, Victor.
And today we are discussing the 11th episode of Season 1 of Stargate Atlantis, The Eye. In The Eye, Major John Shepard and his team face a dire situation as a massive hurricane threatens to destroy the city. To make matters worse, a group of Genii soldiers, led by Commander Augustus Kolya, take control of Atlantis and hold Dr. Elizabeth Weir and Dr. Rodney McKay hostage. Shepard, determined to retake the city and save his friends, plays a dangerous game of cat and mouse with the Genii. He sabotages the city's generators to force the Genii to split their forces, giving him an opportunity to strike. Meanwhile, on the mainland, Dr. Carson Beckett, Tayla, and Lieutenant Ford brave the storm in a puddle jumper to reach the city and assist Shepard. Shepard kills a distressingly large number of the Genii and retakes the control room. Tayla and Sora settle their differences at knife point. The Genii leave, and as the hurricane approaches, McKay, with Weir's help, repairs the station just in time, allowing them to channel the storm's energy into the city's shield. Whew. What did you think of this episode, Lisa?
Well, okay, this was kind of a two-parter, right? Second half of the storm. And when we recorded the first part of the storm, I was evacuated for Hurricane Beryl. So this one, now being back at my house, felt a little different, you know? There's a part of me that was like, why is there no wind? It's a lot of rain. Where's the wind? Where's the things falling over? But, you know, okay, that might be my own PTSD. I like it. It's fun. It's, you know, you got to see Tayla be I'm trying to think of the right word without cursing. She's a take charge girl that can fight and yet still has mercy on the young, naive Sora, you know, who doesn't understand what she's really doing to avenge her father wrongly. Shepard is Shepard. McKay has some brilliant moments, and then you have a little bonding with him and Beckett when he gets back. And it's fun. It was a good part two.
Excellent. What did you think of this episode, Jeff?
Yeah, this is, I think, as we were talking the last time about the storm, we wanted to keep watching because this two-parter is just, it's so good. And yeah, it's got great action with great Shepard stuff, great Tayla stuff. You even get a little bit of action Beckett as well. And yeah, McKay being McKay, having to come up with a solution with the ticking clock right at and coming through right at the very last minute, of course, right as the wave's about to hit the city, they get the shield up. And overall, just it's a great one. It's a great two-parter, and glad we'll get to see Kolya again. And I can't remember if it's this season or next that he shows up again, but we'll get to see him again. And I think we see Sora again in one more, if I'm remembering correctly. So it'd be great to see all them and see what happens next. But yeah, it's a great two-parter, great episode.
And Layden we'll see again as well.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I think he comes back even more.
Yeah.
In the later seasons as well.
Yeah, I mean, if not peak Stargate Atlantis for me, it's right up there. It's what I think about when I think about Stargate Atlantis. Shepard kind of running through the city, you know, the dot eliminating all the other dots, as they say. And amazing to think that most of this episode was filmed inside the gate room set, just redressed, or on the commentary, Martin Wood, the director, talks about all the things that he had to do to make the city, with the limited sets they have, to make the city look huge, and he succeeds. I mean, you think that Shepard is running through this huge city. You never get the impression that he's running up and down the same hallways or through the same sets. But more than that, really good, cat and mouse. The set where they expose poor David Hewitt and Tori Higginson and Robert Davi to immense amount of rain. Yes. And the water was very cold because otherwise it would have interfered with the camera equipment. There were fans blowing on them for 16 hours a day. And so the acting where Tori Higginson's lips are turning blue, that's not acting. That actually is her experiencing the early stages of hypothermia. But it really pays off. There's something very visceral about this, which we haven't seen in Stargate in a long time. And so it's very effective. They go to places where you wouldn't think that Stargate would go to. Previously we've had people hitting, the Iris or the shield, but it hasn't really been our heroes forced into that position. And there's stuff for Taylor to do, for Carson to do. Ford comes into his own in this episode. So there's a lot going on, and it's all handled exceptionally well, in my opinion.
That's a really good, well, you made lots and lots of good points. But I hadn't thought about that with the shield. That usually it's not our heroes who are, usually when people run into the shield and die from running into the shield, it's accidental. Yeah. And the heroes are trying to stop them. Like, no, don't send any more people. They're going to die. And here he did it on purpose. And, to save Atlantis and to save them. But, you don't usually see them kill 60. What was the running number? 60 something,
Yeah. And I mean, Shepard was kind of forced into this position. There was no other alternative except to knock Layden out, close the shield, and then, leave the Genii to their own fate, as it were. And there was actually discussions at the time. It's like, is it okay to show Shepard, indirectly or directly killing so many people? But at the end of the day, he really didn't have a lot of other options at that point.
No, and I thought it was nice that they had Sora kind of be the voice of reason there. And she said, he was doing no different than we would do to defend our home. And so that kind of, assuaged our feelings of like, wait, what is Shepard doing? He can't do that. And it's like, wait. In defense of his home, he's doing what he has to do to protect people and to protect their home. So I thought that was a nice little add in there.
He's a little bit more action heavy than I think O'Neill has been in recent seasons. And I mean, to be fair, O'Neill's been he's the general now in season 8. So, but you get that like action superhero thing with Shepard and he did raise the shield and cause those men to unfortunately die on impact. But I mean, he didn't have a choice, like y'all said. It was that, or he lets them all in and they overtake him and take the city and, just and maybe kill them anyway. Because Kolya, I don't think was going to let anybody survive. He might have taken McKay just for his science knowledge and made him do stuff, but I don't think he would have left Weir alive. Because I mean, what's she going to do? And they're not really interested in being negotiating or anything. So not really a lot of use for her skills on the Genii home planet.
They definitely wouldn't have left Shepard alive.
No.
For sure. Yeah.
And it really sets up why Kolya hates Shepard so much going forward. It's like, he has a legitimate beef with Shepard. Granted, it was mostly Kolya's fault, but
And I like that, I'm going to say this weirdly, like, I like that they left Kolya alive, that he didn't die, because he's such a good, bad guy for Atlantis. That's not the Wraith. It sets up this, you've got the Wraith over here, but then now you still have the Genii. And what else does that entail for Atlantis? So I like that they left him alive. And Sora...
They could have done more with her, I think, than they ultimately do. But and we do get to see Layden like scamper off through the gate, which is kind of cool. He's just like, I'm out of here. But you mentioned, getting back to the storm itself, the lack of wind. And it's funny because they do try to, they have that lone tree kind of in the window outside of the gate room. And there's actually like a guy like out there shaking that tree. And they didn't really tell him when they were shooting or when they weren't. And so he was like the entire day just like shaking this tree. and then go ahead.
It only struck me because, you got all the rain in their face and those scenes, like you were saying, where they were stuck out there. And you're like, man, that's a lot of rain. And, what would you do if you were battling that? And then it dawns on me, wait, this is a hurricane. a really big hurricane. Okay, they're not having to hold on to anything. Like they're outside.
Yeah. I could kind of like, they keep saying they're not in the main part of the storm yet. It's just like the rain part. But you have a lot more experiences with hurricanes.
We had very powerful bands that hit us way before the storm went ashore. So yeah, no, like lots of trees. I think my power went off before the storm came ashore. So like,
yeah,
there was wind for sure.
we do get to see one tree fall over at the puddle jumper.
Yeah,
where Beckett, Ford, and Taylor and the Athosians are hanging out. And a tree falls over and almost hits the puddle jumper, and that actually looks really cool. And I guess Paul McGillen, like right after that happened, like stormed out of the puddle jumper set and was like, "They threw a bloody tree at us!" Like couldn't believe that had happened, but yeah, no, so I think, but yeah, that is the limit of the damage from the storm that we see in this. Yeah.
Well, Beckett and Ford arguing was gold.
Yes. Yeah.
You just can't stop talking, can you?
Yeah. And the whole inertial dampeners and like don't touch things and like but wait a minute and then like let's fly but let's not, and did you fix the inertial dampeners and like and then once they get there like they're gonna hear you because you're talking again. It was that was really nice.
There was a lot of that, like even Layden to his Genii soldiers who are trying to track Ford on the motion or the life signs, detectors in the control room. It's like, she can hear you, and of course Ford can because he has his own life signs detector and is, playing Pac-Man with them essentially.
Mm-hmm. That was funny with them. And it's like this little grid. And then it had like the little, like the walls don't meet it did look like Pac-Man. It was so funny. And I'm like, is that what things looked like in 2000 and whatever year this was, 4 or 5?
It really reminded me of playing Halo, because when I was in high school and college when this was coming out, like me and my friends played a lot of Halo and you have the motion detector. So that's what I wonder if that's what they were trying to evoke. And I mean, other games did it too, but I know Halo was kind of the big one at that point.
Yeah, I think Martin Guerra was probably 24 or so when he wrote this, or not much older than that. So so it probably Halo was an influence. And I'm thinking, like, why wouldn't the ancients make their renderings of the city 3-dimensional? Like, you can't really tell if they're 2-dimensional, up and down, or 2-dimensional, north, south, east, west. And even on the commentary, they were saying it's like, wow, it's a good thing our life science detectors are 2-dimensional, or else they'd know that Shepard was above them. But yeah, I think we just have to, at first I was chalking it up to, they couldn't afford the computer graphics to show a 3D, things moving around 3D space. But I guess it really was just a story beat where if it had been in 3D, they wouldn't have been ambushed by Shepard quite so easily.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they'd have to keep that going the rest of the show, and you could never do anything. I can't remember if there's a similar thing in future episodes or future seasons, but if they made it a 3D one, then you're stuck with that, and you can never do anything like that. So
yeah,
it was, exactly. But that was a cool scene of they're like, where is he? And you just look up in the fog and you see the laser sight aiming at them, and Shepard takes him out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you don't even see him take him out. You just kind of hear it from Layden's perspective in the control room, and you see the dots like blink out. Yeah.
That's a really nice way to handle your hero. You're killing people, was not to see it on screen, Because again, defensive mood. Yeah.
Yeah. And so McKay gets to be brave and wily in this episode again.
No, he said, I'm not that brave. I would help you if I could.
Yeah.
And he can't bluff for anything, so he has to have weird. He's like, make something up. It doesn't, like, you say it. I can't say it.
Or like, what's your code? Okay, and what's the second string of numbers? They worked well together. We're in McKay. Like, they came to an understanding.
Yeah, but I think the real star of this show is that set where they were able to spray quite so much water. And they were able to ramp up the water, too, that they were spraying on them. And originally it was written that there was an awning over them, so the actors wouldn't have gotten wet.
Mm-hmm.
But Martin Wood, the director, read that and said, no, we can actually have water on them. So he, set up the set, then actually went out himself and got sprayed with all the water to make sure that, it would work on film and the actors wouldn't, die. But it was very long days with 2 huge trucks filled with water, spraying it on the set, it running off the set. They had to, angle the set so the water would run off. And you can see it in certain shots, where they show the front of the balcony, and there's just like gallons of water pouring off the set into a pool to be recycled, to be sprayed on the actors again. And you get the impression that Robert Davi is like loving it. He's like, yeah, this is acting. This is what I signed on to do.
This is really method.
Yeah. And when they were rehearsing, I guess, and towards the end, he pushes McKay up against a railing, and McKay's like leaning over the city, but I guess he misjudged it at first and like actually like slammed David Hewitt up against the railing. Yeah. So I would love to have, if there's any episode I would have loved to watch them film, it was probably this one.
Wonder if there's bloopers or outtakes somewhere in existence.
On the DVD
online or somewhere else.
Yeah, there is a featurette of them filming on the wet stage and stuff, and then just looking miserable, and them spending 16 hours a day there. And then they actually filmed the scene where Shepard is trying to deactivate the device, and he's only out there for a few minutes. And they filmed that after, I think, McKay and Weir had been on the set. And so Joe Flanagan comes off the set, and he's like, wow, that's like really wet. And he's telling this to like David Hewitt and Tori Higginson, who spent like 3 days on this set being soaked with water. But yeah.
Funny.
And so McKay's wound is distressingly undressed for most of this episode too, where the Genii have inflicted some untold knife trauma to his arm. Until the very end, where we see his bandage kind of over his uniform because Beckett wasn't available to dress it given his concussion.
Yeah, I was watching it with one of my young adults and my husband, and they were like, "Why is it over? Like what? It's over his jacket. Like who does that? I get that it's supposed to be a thing, but like that's stupid."
Yeah, and Paul Mully, who writes with Joseph Malazzi, but Paul Mully, I guess, from the commentary I learned this, he has the reputation of being the that would never happen like guy while they're writing and stuff. McKay's able to hide in a closet, and the people walk right by him. That would never happen. They would hear his footsteps and stuff. So he's that guy who kind of like checks against, would this actually happen? And so when McKay has that wrapped around his arm, he was the, you would never dress a bandage that way. And they just kind of explain it as like, well, McKay had to do it himself and he doesn't know. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably food was more important, so he probably was like, "How fast can I just wrap? I'm just gonna wrap this. I just gotta quit it bleeding. Like, wrap it up. Let's go eat."
Yeah.
And I liked at the end, Shepard, when it's all said and done at the very end, Shepard's asking, "So how far in advance can you book days off?" Because this happens every 20 years. I want that day off.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is really the perfect ending to this episode.
I think one of my pet peeves in this one was Sora. And
no complaints here.
Why? Because she's cute?
There was a fight scene.
I love the
knives.
fight scene.
Whoosh, whoosh.
Yeah. No, that was great. No, she's they kind of built her up like she's like, she's, a warrior and all this stuff, and then she's comes across as very like whiny and challenging Kolya's authority constantly, which he needed it, but still, it just came across as very whiny. And then when she saw Taylor, it was like, forget all of that. This is the only thing. Like, I gotta get revenge on Taylor, which I guess if my father was murdered, maybe I would be that way, or not murdered, left to die. Sorry. But that I love the fight scene. I thought that was fabulous. I love Taylor saying, basically, you don't want to do this, and I will have no guilt.
Yeah.
Because I know what I did was what I had to do, and again, now I'm going to do what I have to do, and you're really stupid for wanting to do this, and it was great. I loved them showing that Taylor could hold her own.
Yeah. I don't think they set this up explicitly, but I think Sora's reason for joining what Kolya's commando squad was to get eventual revenge for her father, whether it was against the Wraith or eventually against the Atlantis expedition. But if you remember her fight with Kolya, she wasn't the most experienced fighter. He was able to take the sticks and go ha and whoosh and flip her over. And I think her whole purpose of joining that expedition, they set this up kind of in the first episode, was to have that one-on-one with Taylor.
True.
So she didn't buy into Kolya's mission. She wasn't there to take Atlantis. She was there for one reason only, and that was to basically confront Taylor. And that's what she asked. The first question she asked Weir is Taylor here in the last episode. So I think they set that up okay. And as someone who is motivated, entirely by revenge, but doesn't really and Taylor even says, like, I've known you since you were a baby, basically. Do you really want to do this? And then Taylor has to finish that fight decisively. She can't just disarm her and then say, I see I'm a better fighter than you, give up. She has to basically say, I could kill you 3 times over. Now help me pick up Dr. Beckett and drag him to the game room. Which I thought was it's nice that Sora's helping them drag Dr. Beckett into the game room. That was nice.
Yeah, and then they're standing there at the end oh, okay, it's all good. Yeah, they kind of, she was high up in the chain of command with Kolya. I mean, she kept telling him what to do, or he told her what to do, and back and forth. And so, I don't know, it just bothered me. I was like, women don't have to be whiny. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't. Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
Oh, I would say I didn't take it that way. I kind of took her as she was on mission, but then seeing Taylor kind of, and knowing once she knew Taylor was there, that kind of so okay, my mission doesn't matter anymore. I'm my object of my revenge is in front of me, and so I thought she was a good balance of being on mission, but also trying to disagree with the bad decisions Kolya was making that was leading to more and more people dying. More of her people dying, and Kolya just didn't care. He wanted, his goal was to take Atlantis, or to take whatever they could and leave. Where she was, her thing was revenge, but then she was also I think she was kind of seeing, well, this is kind of what revenge can, because Kolya's an angry person or whatever. We don't really know his backstory, but he's an angry person, and I think she was kind of starting to see, if you're so focused on that, then you're gonna, nothing else will matter to you. And then she kind of, the revenge thing overtook that, but then she eventually, so I thought she had a good development. It was kind of up and down, but of what she was being revengeful and wanting to stay on mission, and kind of for the good of her people, not wanting more people to die and stuff. So I thought it was kind of a good mix for her.
And I don't remember I don't remember, I know we see her again, but I can't remember all the details. So hopefully.
Yeah, I don't remember either. I don't think they said anything oh, let's put her in the brig, or let's send her back to.
They said we're going to keep her locked up.
Yeah.
For now.
I think we see her in prison, but it could just be me.
Yeah, I can't remember.
But yeah, it's pretty clear that the younger generation of Genii don't really buy into this whole mercenary kill them all thing that Kolya and Cowan have worked out. It's clear that this is older generation Genii have this ruthless streak, and the younger generation is more pragmatic and a little bit more measured in their response. And so I think we see that coming through with Sora and Layden. Where even at the beginning, Layden is why did you kill them, or Sora, I think. But so when we see that going forward, where the Genii becomes, apart from Kolya and Cowan, becomes a little bit more reasonable in how they deal with the Atlantis expedition. Because when you think about it, they have every reason now at this point to not really like and it does set up at the end, not only do we have to worry about the Wraith, but there's this incredibly, peeved off race of somewhat sophisticated humans who really hate us now.
I mean, they hate you so bad that they led a raid on your planet as you thought you were leaving to evacuate for a hurricane. I mean, that's pretty serious.
And you killed their president's son, basically, too. Yeah. So,
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. One of them. Oh, what about Cohen's son? No, he went splitter splat on the force field there.
And yet, they'll need their help in about 10 episodes or so.
Yeah, exactly. It won't be long. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh gosh, yeah, so much great stuff happening here. Like I mentioned, Ford really does come into his own. He gets to lead with Beckett and Tayla, and Tayla, follows his lead as they run around and try to find the generators that Shepard has deactivated. I did appreciate McKay's note about how dangerous the Naquita reactors are, but yeah, and then we get to see the transporters in action. There's a really cool scene where Shepard is running down a dark hallway filled with crates, goes into the transporter room, the camera pans around him, the doors open, and he's in a completely different hallway. But of course, it's the same hallway. They've just turned the lights on and had about 11 stagehands move the boxes out of the way in the split second when Shepard was in the transport room. And that was really in there to show that, transportation is instantaneous. It's not like a turbo lift where you're in it, it's you step into it, you hit it, you're where you need to go. And so that was a very clever shot on their part. Yeah,
it's different than Star Trek beaming or even Asgard beaming, where it's like there's a little bit you're beamed up and then you're beamed in. It's like it's almost instantaneous. It's almost like a Stargate, like a mini Stargate type of a thing where you're like immediately there.
Yeah, from your perspective, you just step into a room and step out and you're someplace else.
And I was going to say, I like that they gave everyone something to do. Yeah. We've talked a lot about SG-1, especially in these later seasons where it's like, the team, there's always someone left out. In fact, here in Atlantis, we've talked about Ford. And we had a lot of main characters and they all were active. They all had something to do. They were all interesting. And so it was kind of nice to see.
Yeah. And I really like Weir's performance in this too, because she has to stand up to Kolya. She has to manage Rodney. At the end, she's almost shot by Shepard, in the final standoff. And there's a really nice moment at the end where Shepard asks her, "Are you okay?" And she looks devastated. She's like, "No." Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. You saw, Tori Higginson playing Weir is just very strong. She didn't crumble under pressure. She wasn't begging. She wasn't, crying, whining. She was trying to manage all the things and trying to think ahead 2 steps as to what was the best way to get out of that. And we saw that with Shepard too. He's always kind of joking around, and we saw him really thinking ahead and thinking through these problems, especially once he heard Kolya say, what was it, like Weir and McKay, both of them, after he told them that Weir was dead. And you saw him immediately like, wait, okay, this changes things. Now what did I do?
Yeah, and we actually saw some of the Genii like leave with supplies too. So it's interesting what they were able to take before they were, wiped out and stuff. But
probably some of that C4 that they always want.
Yeah.
Hopefully not all the medicine.
C4. But yeah, it's I have to again say how much I appreciate the design of the Genii weapons. I mean, they look just unlike anything else you've seen in fiction. They're not like steampunk, they're not Star Wars blasters, but they are so, of a place and that place is the Genii homeworld and of a time. I just really like their design. They look really chunky. With the soldiers running around with like their rifles or shotguns, you can't really tell. They could just be like, burst guns or something. They're really cool. I like the designs too. And their
now
uniforms
we know
too.
that Atlantis has Wraith stunners or I don't know what they're called, but the Wraith guns, that they have at least a few of those, which was really nice.
Yeah, which they probably captured from the episode where they, took out the Wraith to try and when they captured, which one was it, like Steve or Todd
Steve.
Yeah. Which raises an interesting question because, Beckett asked him why Ford was taking that versus, so he said because he doesn't know who's coming at him, so he just shoot anyone and stun them. And, in SG-1, we have the Zat. And here, so this introduces that same kind of concept here, that they can shoot first without really worrying too much about if they're going to kill them or just stun them, friend or foe.
Yeah. I thought it would have been really cool if like Ford had picked up like a Zat gun or something. Mm-hmm. He would be like, yeah, Zat gun. You brought one of those to Atlantis. Yeah. That's awesome. But
I don't think we ever see them in Atlantis.
Yeah, no, I was wondering like what it would make sense to send them with some, but I guess they wanted to kind of distinguish the design of the Pegasus Galaxy and the Wraith weapons and stuff from what we're seeing back on the Milky Way.
I was just sitting here thinking a Gould communication device would be like really handy. Right?
Yeah.
Long range communication device. Maybe it can't go between galaxies, but could have taken one to try it.
Exactly. Yeah, they come up with the communication stones pretty quick here, but yeah. Any other thoughts?
I don't think so. I didn't have any PTSD watching it, but
that's good.
As it's raining a lot here this week, and my tree that we thought we saved is now falling back over. So, yeah, I was waiting to see some trees fall.
Well, they had that little guy shaking that one tree outside the window. So, other than that, though, the effects in this were outstanding. And the reason why the effects in this were so much better than the Storm is because they went on hiatus, and the effects company that does their digital effects had like 3 extra months to work on the effects for this episode versus the other one. So, when the shield comes up, there's this big tsunami wave that's about to hit them, and the shield comes up, and it's a really cool effect shot. So, yeah, I haven't mentioned the digital effects, but they look really good in this episode.
And didn't they get nominated for something with this episode? I was thinking they did.
They should have.
Awards. I'm looking to see if I can find it. I'm pretty sure I read that.
Leo Awards, Best Visual Effects. And Gemini, too, nominated, yes.
Uh-huh. I see one for Best Overall Sound. Yeah. Or that might not have been this episode specifically. But yeah. They really, I loved the shield coming up at the end with the wave, and that was really nice. But no, overall, it was just I wish I'd gotten to watch them back to back, but I was trying to not watch ahead so we could do this. But I guess that puts it more in perspective of what it was like in 2004, where we had to wait a couple of months in between. We couldn't just sit down and binge watch everything. So, but no, these two are great together.
And what about you, Jeff?
Yeah, nothing else here. This pair of episodes is really good, and I might go back and like watch them back to back to kind of get that kind of more cinematic movie type of experience watching them. But yeah, overall these are great. And yeah, I'll look forward to seeing whenever we see Kolya again. I can't remember when it is, but we'll see him. So, and but yeah, this is great.
Excellent. No real weird other languages. It's usually just in the eye or in the middle of the storm, but we do have some feedback. Today, USMC 9355 on our Stargate SG-1 episode Memento, which is the one where the Prometheus takes its ill-fated first trip and winds up on the planet of the, angry people. And USMC
Kolya's cousin.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Ninth with this little armored vehicle. Writes, I like how in the beginning they are saying it's highly unlikely that we will run into the Gould, making you think that will be the twist, and then they fake you out and there are no Gould in this episode. And that is true. There are no Gould in this episode. However, we do get to see, I think, the Stargate raising scene from the original movie in this episode. So, and And one more piece of one more comment here. Varyar77 from YouTube also writes on our Stargate Atlantis episode Home. And this was the final episode with Father Cory. Fare thee well, Father Cory. You will be missed. Godspeed going forward. And that applies from all of us as well. And when we hope to share you with you some information on Father Cory's exploits going forward here.
If we can, if he's not
if we
classified.
Can. Yeah. Yeah. And
some Cheyenne Mountain.
Some deep space telemetry projects. Yeah.
Yep. Homeworld security.
Right. Homeworld security. Exactly. Never going to happen. Anywho, we'd like to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the Secrets of Stargate. And if you would like to become a patron or donate in some other way to our glorious mission here, please visit sqpn.com/give. Those donations make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Stargate, as well as all the shows on StarQuest here. So you can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. And be sure to follow the show on Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or find our video versions at youtube.com/StarQuestMedia. And to find previous episodes of Secrets of Stargate and to send feedback, please visit sqpn.com/Stargate. You can email us at stargate@sqpn.com or follow StarQuest on social media at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia or on Twitter, X at SQPN, or on our Discord channel. And I just noticed that with Jack and Father Cory being absent, the Discord channel has kind of become a little neglected. So I promise I will be on there more frequently than I have been in the past.
I'll make a pledge to pop in. How's that?
Yeah. But please, the conversations there, the memes that people post and the jokes, they are priceless, and we appreciate those so much. So thank you for your engagement on our Discord server, as the kids say. And we will be back next time with the next episode of Stargate SG-1, Prometheus Unbound. Until then, Lisa Jones, thank you for joining us and sharing the secrets of Stargate.
Thanks, Victor.
And thank you, Jeff Haecker.
Thanks, Victor.
And once again, I'm Victor Lambs. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Stargate on StarQuest. And remember, I don't know if you've noticed or not, but I'm an extremely arrogant man who tends to think all of his plans will work.
Best line.
Anyway, I'm sorry, but that just happens to be how I feel about it. What do you think?